The shocking move in Congress could slash future Social Security checks. What many believed was a guaranteed lifeline is now on the chopping block, with lawmakers preparing changes that could cost retirees thousands. The move is being disguised as reform, but in reality, it threatens the very foundation of retirement security in America. For millions who work their entire lives paying into the system, this isn't just policy, it's survival. And it all starts with the announcement Congress just made. Chapter 1. The Big Announcement. The halls of Congress echoed with the announcement, a new plan for Social Security. On the surface, it sounded responsible, even noble. Lawmakers stood at podiums and declared it was time to protect the program and ensure its survival for future generations. Headlines repeated the talking points. This was a safeguard, a bold reform, a promise to save retirement security. But buried beneath the applause was a reality far more dangerous. The so-called reform was not about strengthening benefits, it was about shrinking them. Quietly, almost invisibly, the plan rewrote the very formula used to calculate checks, adjustments that look minor on paper, but in practice, slash benefits for millions of future retirees. For someone approaching retirement, the difference could be devastating. Imagine working 40 years, contributing faithfully, only to see the check you counted on reduced by $150, $200, or even $300 a month. That is money that pays for prescriptions, groceries, and heating bills. And once those cuts begin, they are permanent. Month after month, year after year. This is the first red flag. Because Social Security is not a luxury, it is not a cushion. For nearly half of retirees in America, it is the single largest source of income. Take away even a fraction, and entire households are thrown into crisis. Seniors are forced to make impossible choices: food or medicine, heat or rent, survival or dignity. The truth is that the announcement was more than policy. It was a signal, a turning point, a shift in how leaders view the program. No longer as a promise owed to the people who built this country, but as a number on a ledger, a budget item to be trimmed, no matter the human cost. Congress framed the move as protection. But protection for whom? Certainly not the workers who spent decades paying in, trusting they would one day receive what they earned. The protection here is for lawmakers themselves, for a system that prioritizes appearances over people. This is the opening move in a much larger game. And for retirees, it marks the beginning of a battle they never asked for. Because while this announcement alone is alarming, what comes next is even worse. Hidden beneath the surface of this proposal lies the first trap, a quiet mechanism designed to strip even more from those who can least afford it. Chapter 2. The hidden cuts. The proposal in Congress was framed as reform. But behind the polished speeches was the first trap: hidden cuts. Lawmakers spoke of adjusting formulas and modernizing benefits. The words sounded harmless, even boring. Yet buried in the fine print was a change to the formula that calculates benefits. Instead of keeping pace with real living costs, the new plan ties increases to a slower measure of inflation. In Washington, it's called chained CPI. In reality, it means smaller checks. The difference may start small, $50 or $100 less each month. But over time, it grows devastating. A retiree expecting $1,600 could see $1,450 instead. Over 15 years, the loss can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. That is not saving money. That is rewriting someone's retirement story. For millions, Social Security is not extra cash. It is the rent, the medicine, the groceries. A cut of even $150 forces impossible choices: heat or food, prescriptions or bills. And the cruelest part is that the cut never announces itself. Cost of living adjustments just shrink, little by little, until the gap becomes permanent. Lawmakers defend this as necessary. But the wealthy, who barely notice Social Security, are untouched. The burden falls on retired teachers, nurses, and factory workers who can least afford it. This isn't reform. Its erosion slow, silent, and permanent. And the damage doesn't stop here. Because once benefits are trimmed, the next blow arrives in healthcare, where Medicare premiums quietly take even more away. Chapter 3. Medicare cost shifts. The second trap reveals itself in healthcare. Because every decision tied to Social Security eventually ripples into Medicare. And when benefits shrink or formulas change, Medicare premiums are never far behind. The move in Congress is being praised as a way to protect Social Security's future. But in practice, it opens the door for Medicare costs to rise faster than retirees can keep up. Every time benefits adjust downward, the burden of healthcare expenses grows heavier. For seniors living on fixed incomes, this is not just a number on paper, it's a monthly crisis. Here is how the trap works. Each year, Medicare Part B premiums are recalculated. They are drawn directly from Social Security checks before a retiree ever sees the money. When benefits are cut or slowed, any increase in Medicare premiums wipes out what little is left. A retiree who thought they were safe with a $50 increase may discover that Medicare takes $45 of it back the same month. In some cases, retirees see no net gain at all. The so-called cost of living adjustment is erased before it even arrives. For others, the result is even worse. The Medicare deduction climbs so high that their take-home check is smaller than the year before. Imagine being promised a raise, only to find out your paycheck actually shrank. That is the cruel math at work here. And it doesn't stop with Part B. Rising prescription drug costs, deductibles and supplemental coverage pile on top of shrinking Social Security checks. For seniors managing chronic conditions, this is more than frustration. It is a direct attack on their ability to survive. They worked their entire lives, paid into both Social Security and Medicare, and yet in retirement, they face an endless tug-of-war between two programs that were supposed to protect them. Lawmakers frame the move as a technical fix, but the truth is, it shifts the burden of America's healthcare costs directly onto retirees. And unlike politicians who enjoy guaranteed health coverage for life, seniors are left with fewer choices and heavier bills. This is the second trap. And it is every bit as dangerous as the first, because while the hidden cuts erode Social Security slowly, rising Medicare premiums accelerate the damage, devouring entire raises in a single stroke. But this still is not the full story, because beyond shrinking checks and rising healthcare costs lies a deeper injustice. It's not just about what seniors lose, it's about who never has to sacrifice at all. And that brings us to the most rigged part of the system. Chapter 4. The rigged system behind the debates over benefit formulas and Medicare costs lies a truth that few in Congress are willing to admit. The system itself is rigged. On paper, Social Security looks like a shared sacrifice. Every worker pays in, every retiree receives benefits. But in reality, the rules tilt in favor of the wealthiest Americans, while ordinary workers carry the heaviest load. The clearest example is the Social Security tax cap. Each year, wages are taxed for Social Security only up to a certain limit. In recent years, that limit has hovered around $160,000 to $180,000. For a nurse making $65,000, every single dollar of that paycheck is taxed. For a teacher earning $50,000, the same is true. But for a corporate executive earning $1 million, the Social Security tax stops at the cap. Every dollar above it is free from contribution. This means the millionaire pays Social Security tax on just a fraction of income, while middle-class workers pay on every penny. Two people standing, side by side, both working hard, both paying taxes. Yet the burden is wildly unequal. The higher the income, the more protection from paying into the system. The lower the income, the heavier the responsibility. The numbers tell the story. A teacher might contribute thousands each year towards Social Security, often for decades without interruption. Meanwhile, a hedge fund manager earning millions can stop contributing by February or March of the same year, because they've already hit the cap. From then on, the rest of their salary escapes untouched. That is not equality. That is legalized favoritism. And when lawmakers insist on cutting benefits to save the program, they conveniently ignore the solution staring them in the face: lifting or eliminating that cap. If higher earners paid into the system the same way ordinary workers do, Social Security would be solvent for decades. Cuts would not be necessary. Benefits would not need to shrink. But instead, Congress shields the wealthiest while asking retirees to accept less. This is why the word rigged is not an exaggeration, because when a system forces working families to pay full freight while letting the richest Americans off the hook, that system is not fair. It is deliberately tilted. It is designed to favor privilege over people. And here lies the cruelest irony. The very retirees who depend most on Social Security, the working-class Americans who paid faithfully for 40 years, are the same ones punished with cuts. Meanwhile, those with the least need for Social Security are spared from sacrifice altogether. Lawmakers protect themselves and their wealthy donors while telling ordinary citizens to tighten their belts. This is the third trap, and it may be the most infuriating, because it is not about numbers on a spreadsheet. It is about justice, about fairness, about whether this country honors its promise to workers or continues to protect the wealthiest at the expense of everyone else. And while the rigged system explains who escapes sacrifice, the real question remains: Who suffers most when these cuts take hold? The answer reveals the full human cost of Congress' shocking move. Chapter 5. Who gets hurt the most? Every change to Social Security carries a price, and that price is not shared equally. When Congress moves to slash future checks, the pain falls hardest on those who can least afford it. Low and middle-income retirees are hit first. These are workers who spent their lives in modest jobs: teachers, truck drivers, hospital staff, builders. They paid in faithfully, often sacrificing other savings because they trusted Social Security would be there. For them, the program is not extra cash. It is survival. A cut of $150 or $200 a month can push them from security into poverty. Women face an even greater burden. With lower average wages, time out of the workforce to care for family, and smaller benefits overall, cuts strike harder. A widow living on $1,200 might suddenly see $1,050. On paper, it looks small, but in real life it means skipped meals, delayed prescriptions, and unpaid bills piling up. Minorities also carry a disproportionate impact. Historical wage gaps mean African American and Latino retirees often rely more heavily on Social Security. Reductions hit these communities harder, widening inequality and undoing decades of progress. And for those in their 40s and 50s today, the message is grim. They are told to prepare for less, even as they continue paying full freight into the system. They will work longer, contribute more, and receive smaller checks when their turn comes. The reality is simple. A retired couple living on $2,400 a month, who lose $250 every month, will see $30,000 erased over 10 years. For families already stretched by medical bills, housing, and inflation, that is not a cut, it's a crisis. The pattern is clear. Those with the least flexibility, the smallest savings, and the greatest reliance on Social Security carry the heaviest weight. The wealthy, for whom Social Security is pocket change, barely notice the difference. This is the human cost of Congress' move. Behind every number is a life altered, a family destabilized, a retirement thrown into doubt. And what makes it worse is that it doesn't have to be this way. Alternatives exist. Real solutions are on the table. So why hasn't Congress chosen them? Chapter 6. The path not taken. The cuts Congress is pushing are not the only option. Real solutions exist that could protect Social Security for decades without slashing a single check. Yet those solutions remain ignored while lawmakers choose the easier path, cutting benefits for ordinary workers. One clear alternative is raising or eliminating the payroll tax cap. Today, a teacher pays Social Security tax on every dollar, but a millionaire stops contributing after about $180,000. If the cap were lifted, the wealthiest would finally pay their share, and the program's solvency would stretch far into the future. The math is simple, but Congress won't touch it. Another option is a smarter investment. Right now, Social Security funds are locked in ultra-safe, low-return accounts. If even part of the trust fund were carefully invested, billions in new revenue could be generated. Other countries do this successfully, but Washington dismisses it as too risky, even as private pensions thrive. Using the same strategy. The truth is, these solutions exist. They're practical, they're proven. But they require political courage, the courage to challenge wealth and power. Instead, lawmakers claim cuts are inevitable. That claim is not a fact, it's a choice to protect privilege while forcing retirees to sacrifice. And that is why this move is so shocking. Because it isn't about saving Social Security, it's about priorities. It's about who the government protects and who it abandons. And now, as the curtain is pulled back, the real motive comes into view. Chapter 7. The shocking truth. At the heart of this debate lies the shocking truth. The move in Congress is not about saving Social Security. It is about shifting the cost of America's retirement system onto those least able to carry it. The speeches frame it as a responsibility. The headlines call it reform. But the details reveal a different story. Benefits are cut for workers who spent decades paying in, while loopholes for the wealthy remain untouched. Retirees are told to do with less, even as lawmakers themselves enjoy guaranteed pensions and lifetime perks. The motive becomes clear. This is not about math. It is about politics. Cutting benefits makes the budget look balanced without raising taxes on the powerful. It appeases donors, protects privilege, and leaves ordinary Americans holding the bill. And the impact will be permanent. Smaller checks, rising health costs. A generation of retirees is forced to work longer, delay retirement, or face poverty in old age. The promise of security was replaced with uncertainty. This is the shocking move in Congress, a decision that could slash future Social Security checks, not by accident, but by design. And the final blow reveals just how fragile the promise of retirement has become. The final blow is the illusion that Social Security will keep pace with the cost of living. On paper, retirees are promised cost of living adjustments each year. In reality, those raises vanish almost instantly. Medicare premiums climb, grocery bills and rents rise. Prescription prices keep soaring. Retirees see an increase on their statement, but their bank deposit barely changes, sometimes it even shrinks. The raise they were promised is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. This is the cruelest part of Congress' move. Lawmakers can claim they are protecting Social Security while knowing seniors feel no relief. The check looks bigger on paper, but life gets harder in practice. And that is the trap: not one cut, but a series of moves that erode the foundation of retirement. Smaller checks, higher costs, a rigged system that favors the wealthy and abandons everyone else. This is the shocking move in Congress, a decision that could slash future Social Security checks and leave millions of Americans with a retirement far different from the one they were promised.